the wise words of Hannah Montana. Life's what you make it, so let's make it rock. I wanted to talk about my favorite books that I read in 2017. And it's funny because I realized that my 5-star ratings weren't necessarily my favorite books. I'll show you my 5-star ratings, and I'll show you the books that for some reason I enjoyed enough to make it an honorable mention. Starting with the last category first. This is a 5-star rating that wasn't necessarily deserving of its 5 stars, but there was nothing I would have changed about it, and it was just fun to read. Grasshopper on the Road. This is a very short book, probably considered a children's book by most societies, including ours. I don't even remember what it was about. It was this grasshopper going on a journey. I'm pretty sure he encountered people who were unreasonable. By people, I mean other animals, of course. I think they were like asking things of him that he wasn't equipped to do, but it was really funny, so I gave it 5 stars. Oh, how I wish there was a way to change my answer. Perhaps an edit feature of some sort. But alas, this savage song. This was a fun one. It was a very pleasant surprise. I was expecting like a musical themed contemporary, and this is a dark fantasy about monsters. It wasn't my favorite because it is just so dark, and that's not what I like. At times it was difficult to read because it was just so gruesome, but it was an excellent story. Everything. I was not expecting for there to be so much to talk about and to theorize about. There's a lot to this book. It's not your typical contemporary either. Shadow and Bone of the Grisha trilogy. I couldn't bring myself to give this 5 stars because there's a love triangle and there's a lot of cliche YA aspects, but there's much more originalness. That's a word. There was folklore, and it's set in like an old Russia. There are some interesting characters that feel completely unique to this story. It's really hard to find something that stands out in enough ways that it feels like its own little universe. And I think this did that. Warcross. In a way, I was pleasantly surprised, but in a way, I was very disappointed. Most of the book had this really cool setting with a cool main character and her cool backstory, a sad backstory, but cool. Crazy things were happening everywhere you look until the romance. That was painful to read. No spoilers, but it doesn't make any sense. There's no foundation to their relationship at all. Usually people go through some trials and then they're like, hey, you. I pick you. Oh wow, I pick you too. This is perfect. But in this case, it was just kind of like, do we pick each other? I don't know. Is there any reason to? No. But I just want to. And it was really silly. And I didn't like the ending either, which was such a letdown. When we got to the end, things started happening and I was like, oh no. So at this point I'm not planning to read the sequel because I don't think it's going to go somewhere that I want to go. This Side of Paradise was F. Scott Fitzgerald's first novel. I was curious to read it because I love The Great Gatsby. This book was so boring though. Nothing was really happening. The main character doesn't change. If people don't agree with him, they're wrong. He's still right. He does whatever he wants. He doesn't pay attention to consequences. I learned a lot of new words from this book, which is why I appreciated it. And there were sentences here and there that I really enjoyed, but for the most part, it was a pain. The Metamorphosis. It was interesting, but it was also a little bit boring. Luckily, the audiobook is only 3 hours, so I think it's just like a tiny little book. It's about this guy who turns into a bug overnight with no explanation. I thought the writing was a very interesting style that I've never read before, and a weird ending. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Yeah, so this story has always interested me, but I already knew the ending and stuff, so reading it, I was wondering whether knowing the ending would ruin the book or not. Luckily, it did not. Whether you know the ending or not, the build-up is still cool. It still packs a punch. I think I'm showing you like half of the books that I read out of 46. So those were my like 12, 9, 10. Those were my insert number here, honorable mentions. They weren't amazing, but they were interesting. Now these are my almost 5-star books. They came very close, and reading them was a delight. But there was something about them, probably just one thing, which led them to be rated only 4 stars. The Wild Things. I almost want to go back and change this because I think it does deserve 5 stars. It was so good. If you've seen the movie, this is just a novelization of the movie. I hadn't seen the movie. I did not know that. Now now I have, and both are very good. I just really liked it. It was unique. I don't know if there was supposed to be symbolism in here or if I was just making stuff up, but it all seemed very intentional. Hopefully that was the case. Caraval. I really liked this one. I liked the characters and I liked the mystery and I liked the setting. It kept me guessing the whole time. I didn't know what was going on, which was really fun. It was like the book was playing with your mind. It was crazy. Super good, except what was it that made me rate this lower? I think it was just the romance because it was super cheesy. Dragon Teeth. This was a Western historical fiction and it was super fun. It was similar to Caraval where I felt like I was actually being taken on a journey with the characters. A lot of times I feel like I'm either an observer or just a listener, but in this one I kind of felt like I was a participant. There were tons and tons of perilous situations and I never knew who was gonna come out of them alive because sometimes they didn't. And also it's about dinosaur excavation, so that's good. The Night Circus. This one was almost a 5-star rating. It was so close. But again, the romance did it. I saw no reason for the couple to be a couple. I feel like it could have been explained better. They just kind of gravitated towards each other with no explanation. And then they were both in agreement, like, yes, obviously we should be together. But it was never explained. You didn't know what was going on in their head. They were just like, it's destiny. And I'm like, guys, that was the only thing. But it was a big part of the book. The rest of it was amazing. It was very similar to Caraval. I keep saying I'm gonna do a comparison video. At this point, maybe I've already said everything that needs to be said. If a video shows up though, you'll know that's not true. Yeah, it's about this circus that just mysteriously pops up in different places all over the world. People follow it because it's just so cool. It's like Comic-Con, but for the olden days. And everyone dresses really classy. And this is one where if it hasn't already won literary awards, then it should. It's not YA, it's adult. And it's very skillfully written. We're down to the 5-star ratings. The Golden Compass. This book was the best surprise of my life. It was like I heard about it one day, got it the next, and then I was forever in love. It's like really similar to Narnia, but so different from anything. But it's set in a universe that is like Earth, but not quite Earth. Everyone has these little pets that act as their shoulder angels, and the societies are really different. It's just like everything was so well thought out that it just totally brings this world to life. This book is very worthwhile. And there's 2 other ones in the series, and a new one that just came out recently that is like a spin-off or something. Salt to the Sea. This was a World War II historical fiction about one of the greatest maritime disasters in history that no one seems to know about. I did not know about it. Never heard of it. But this is another award-worthy one. I think I've compared it to The Book Thief before. Pretty good comparison. They're similar, but different. If you like to cry, this is the book for you, for sure. It's just a really good story with really real characters. Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters. So yeah, this isn't like actually deserving of a 5-star rating in a literary sense. It's not a masterpiece, but I had so much fun reading this. I just love that these exist. Super good. That's all I'm gonna say. Go read it yourself. The Scarecrow and His Servant. And this is the same author who wrote The Golden Compass, so that's interesting. I found a new favorite author this year. It's pretty much just a bunch of nonsense. It's about this scarecrow with a turnip for a head who hires this child to be his lifelong servant. The child's like, great, this will be fun. And the scarecrow's like, come along, boy, there's work to be done. There's sights to see. He's very sophisticated. Very sophisticated. It's quite hilarious. And they go on quite the adventure. To Kill a Mockingbird. This was a super good book. I can see why everyone adores it. Yeah, you don't feel like you're reading a book. You feel like you're reading the newspaper or like something real. It feels real. But this is one of those just go read it books. A Christmas Carol, my final book. It was so fun. Charles Dickens is a funny guy, especially in this story. I have since started reading Oliver Twist, and I am not enjoying that nearly as much. This one was great. And I love the character development. I love the transformation from beginning to end. I think this is especially great for reading around Christmas, but you don't have to read it at Christmas. I didn't explain myself about the tiny books I was holding. If you're new here, I keep a record of everything I read via the tiny books. I'll leave them on my wall so I can just look up and say, oh yeah, I read that. That was fun. That was a good time. And it also comes in very handy at the end of the year when I need to compile all the books that I read, and I don't want to insert it in the video, and I don't want to check them all out from the library. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Pretty good year. Pretty good year. These are them. Feast your eyes. If you've read any of these, let me know. And I've been filming for a long time, so I think I'm just gonna gracefully back out. Didn't plan that, but that was awesome.